Peace and love, family. Man, this is, a proud moment for me, man. This is 2 years, man. We officially hit 2 years of Manned Up Conversations on the 8th of July. So 8 July 2021 is when the first episode officially went live. Although, we had a couple of months prior to that where a bit of research and planning went into this. And you hear me use we quite a lot whenever I speak about Manned Up Conversations, because although I'm responsible for everything that you see on social media, for the production, for getting the guests, for the recording, the equipment, all of this, my guests have really been quite a key part of what I do. Without any of my guests, I don't think I would have had half the conversations that I would have had. Without my guests, without the people that I also worked with at a certain point in time, about sometime last year until sometime in March where, we parted ways. But for the most part, I've kind of been doing my own thing. So I'm really looking forward to sharing how Manned Up Conversations has taught, has challenged, and most of all allowed me to explore different parts of myself. Because you see, these conversations are based on questions I've held in my heart for so many years, man. Because of my reserved nature, a lot of people who know me from like high school days, people who grew up with me in the hood, they find it hard to believe that I'm on a platform that speaks of such, what people might call intense and deep topics. But I'm not really trying to be deep at all, man. It's just, this is what comes out of all of the years of biting my tongue and keeping quiet when I always knew I have something to say. But, I'm not a guy who wants to stand out. I'm not a guy who wants to be seen. I don't want to be celebrated. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to be the focus. I just want to kind of blend in and keep the peace. I don't want to ruffle people's feathers. So, like many men in society, I spent a good part of my life walking around in what, you might call this sort of a masculinity fog, right? Where, I'm just a little kid, there's no guidance for me. There was no guidance, there was no father in my family. So there was no guidance on how to navigate this journey of manhood. There were no clear instructions. There were no intentional instructions. So I had to follow my bliss and get to work, So that's exactly what I did. Though it might seem trivial at times because, podcasting has kind of become a hustle for some people, right? I think I listened to something recently that was speaking about, the growth of toxic male podcasts. And I'm like, oh man, I hope I don't fall into one of those, because I find this journey to be very empowering. It's been liberating, and it's also been full of wonder. Like the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, man. I found myself reading some really dope books. You can see a few of them over there, which we'll get into in the next couple of episodes. I found myself listening to podcasts and interviews with great men. I've sat across some really great men who are really accomplished, men who've made their own way in a world that is constantly forcing men to conform and toe the line, right? Without ever realizing what sets their masculine soul on fire and brings out a new meaning to their way of being. And this is by no means an easy road. As I've come to learn, the way of the masculine is a challenge, but not an impossible one, So men know this very well, and it's easy to fall into the general definitions of men, but finding your own meaning to life and being able to define yourself by your own standards, well, that's something even our society doesn't really allow for, because most men, or the conversation around masculinity and men, is so rooted in patriarchy, oppression, and the abuse of women, other men, and children, that the men who go against this ideology seem to be written out of the history books and silenced in mainstream conversations, right? So though there are men who are changing this narrative, and I'd like to put myself in that list as well, I've had some really interesting conversations and heard some really disparaging comments about men from both men and women who refuse to extend some grace and compassion to men who don't seem to have it all together. So I'm going to list some examples here, and you can let me know if you agree with them or not. So I've heard, oh, you're talking to men? Do those people even listen? Who even cares about them? Some have even said, oh, you have a podcast about toxic masculinity. That's good, because these men need to learn how to treat women better. You kind of get the gist, right? But what has been really interesting is, instead of actually talking to men or taking a moment to listen to at least one episode, the assumption is that anyone talking to men needs to teach men how to be better, which is very unfortunate. But I won't lie, I had the same idea when I started. And slowly over time, I realized that men need allies, man. Men need someone to talk to. Men need someone who's willing to listen to their story without judgment or ridiculing beliefs they hold about their masculinity and life in general. But in that same breath, men also need a place to be themselves. They don't need to be perfect. They don't need to have it all together. But they need a space to just be. And this space might include a lot of humor, a lot of teasing to lighten the mood, but still hold space for the real issues that need to be discussed. So it's a well-known fact that there's a lack. It's a well-known fact that there's a lack of understanding of the male lived experience. And by doing the work on myself, I hope to share as many stories and create meaningful connections with some men I've known throughout my life and those I'm yet to meet, not only through interviews, but in my personal interactions on a daily basis. I may lose some people because of my newfound expression, but I know I'll form deeper bonds with those I meet along my journey. Now, while this is the first of many takes I'll be doing on my own, I'll also be sharing about other work that I'm doing outside of the podcast, because I'm not just doing the podcast, I'm doing other stuff on the side as well. I got a job, I got to keep the lights on. I got to get myself fed. I like nice sneakers. I like nice clothes too. So I got to do stuff outside of this. But pertaining to my work with men, I started a men's group in partnership with the South African and Depression Anxiety group. So I've gotten into some speaking engagements, working on some events that we're going to be talking about maybe a bit closer to the summer. The idea was to have them now, but, it's cold, man. It's winter. And I just, started a job recently. So I want to just find some balance for myself, just don't try to do too much. But, I'll also share some insights from books, from some emerging research, how I'm experiencing growth in different areas in my life that I feel need some focus and improvement. I'm also currently enrolled in a course on male psychology and mental health with the Center for Male Psychology in London. And I want to use this in my work with boys and men in communities that need support, because, living and growing up in these challenging environments, we kind of need all the help we can get. So I want to pay it forward to the young men who are coming up and some of the older men who need the support. And I know it's a tall order, like I said, but I'm following my bliss and learning from every interaction while getting to a place of cultivating self-acceptance, self-love, and appreciation for where I am now, and not some figure I hope to be for the world, right? So yeah, man. If you're new to Man Up Conversations, I welcome you with peace, with love, and I hope these conversations offer you more than just talk, but they inspire a sense of hope and confidence in the future of men. And to those who've supported my work over the past 2 years, I thank you for walking this journey with me, for being patient, and for allowing me to make mistakes, but holding me accountable anytime I say something out of line. So, there's a couple of good friends of mine who might know exactly what I'm talking about there. But yeah, man, like I say, to everyone who's been supporting me, man, please stay tuned. Please follow, like, subscribe, share. And a very important thing that I want to ask of you guys is, wherever you're listening, there's a comment section, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're in iTunes, go down there, man, give us a review of what you think and keep it honest, keep it real. You don't have to lie, you don't have to sugarcoat anything, but I do believe that I'm sharing some great value with the stuff. So, leave us a comment, because that helps us reach other men who might want to hear these conversations that we cover so gratefully on this platform. But until next time, man, take care of yourself, stay true. Remember to listen with a critical but constructive ear, and mostly do the work that makes you the man you want to be for yourself and those you love. Peace and love, family. So thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoy the show, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share with your friends and family to help us reach our fellow brothers and be part of the evolution as men.